Hey everybody, doing a Sunday afternoon stream today, and something a little bit different. Ooh, yeah, I think this will work great. We're going to be looking at this thing I've been doing with my little room that I work in at home. I have, well, I'm a professor at the University of Colorado Denver, so I've got a lot of studios to work with on campus. A number of other professional studios around town over the years that I've done stuff with. But I like to have a space at home where I'm doing my videos for YouTube, or just a place I can compose and work without uh, anybody bothering me. And I just upgraded the room a little bit. I found I was having tons of stuff on the floor, or I had a little shelving thing that I had in here that I had a lot of stuff. And so what I did was try to brainstorm some ways to get more stuff in here without making it even more messy, which you'll see in a second, where you can actually see a little bit. It is a little bit messy, but um, so the main thing is this cork board that you can buy at IKEA. There's actually two types of cork I have in here, or pegboard, I mean. There's this one right there, that's IKEA, and then the one on the back wall is actually from like Home Depot. And I had to go with a different one for the back and the main thing here, primarily because IKEA does more vertical, and I wanted a piece that was uh, a little different height, and I could cut it up and stuff. And so I got one that was made out of wood that I could cut up and do things with. So let me just walk you through a little bit of what I've got going on with it, because I think this may be useful for some of you who are thinking of doing something similar, but aren't sure what the benefits would be of it. And so let me start with showing you exactly what I have here. I'm going to do a little handheld with this other camera. So first of all, my main computer in here right now is the M1 Silicon Mac Mini, which is now just mounted on the wall. It seems to work really well. I don't know if I would have done this back in the day when we had all of the hard drives that were mechanical and spinning and things, because it's not, I mean, I guess I could tighten it down so that the vibrations aren't an issue, but this thing's, I still have never heard the fan on it, not even once. And so it's super quiet. It goes right here in front of me, and you can see all the cables and things come out the top, and they're all going to different places. Almost everything now, well, I think for this computer, everything is actually mounted on a wall someplace, which I like, because that means all of my hard drives and things, I don't have to like worry about where they are, if they're on the floor, on a shelf, or something. And so I really like being able to have all of that someplace really easily accessible. So this is sitting right in front of me. You can see one of my computer screens right next to it here. And then I've got two audio interfaces that I use. These right now are separate, because I have two computers in the room. One of them goes to one of them and the other one goes to the other. But in projects where I need more channels, I create an aggregate device inside OS 10, and these just become a bigger interface, which is super nice. So I have the one mic input there. That's what you're hearing me on. And then the second cable right now is coming from my Behringer Model D. And that brings me to the next thing. Right below there, I've got two of the Behringer synths. And they're just on these white brackets like this. And they're just sitting there. So there's nothing really holding them in except for gravity. The way that they're weighted, it's perfect for this. There's never a thought that they would flip off or anything. They really do stay in there well. Which brings me up to the next part. I do have a couple more of those above the other monitor, which I just put in yesterday. So I don't even have them like powered in or anything like that. But they're going to go right above there. Everything is like easy to reach, so I can just quickly turn them on, dial in a patch or something, and then be off to the races, which is kind of nice. Let me think. Over here, I've got like the buckets that come from IKEA, and hard drives literally just sit inside there when I need them or when I'm plugging them in. Because hard drives that are all the SSD type drives, they can all pretty much go in any direction. I'm not too worried about the placement or anything. I sometimes will have 4 or 5 drives just sitting in there, all plugged in and working. There's one on the wall right there as well that I just bungeed into the wall for a few different reasons, but it's a little bigger than that thing would want, and I keep that one separate. Below there, I've got a little USB hub that I'm using for all the hard drives essentially. Okay, so that's the one wall. I do have a number of these things here for like license dongles and thumb drives and more storage up there, plus just a hard drive sitting up there that I'm not using right now. Okay, so on this other wall, the front one, I got some cables and things wrapped. There's my breath controller from Hornberg. The main unit sits down there, and I just have the other one up on the top. Here's another keyboard and mouse, and that's for the other computer. I don't use that one as often, but I do use it sometimes, so I want to keep the keyboard and the mouse out of the way, so I just put them up there. Some other storage things. Here's my Leap Motion behind there that I keep there, and I just have a camera hanging off the wall. And then on this wall, I have one more. I'm going to be putting some little rubber grips there because I want to leave my laptop there, but the way that is right now, it'd be easy to knock it off and it would just hit the floor. So it's just going to be there, but it's not there yet. And then I've got a MIDI interface, one of the MIOs, and that'll be integrated here shortly as well. So that's the main part of all of this. I do have a shelf that's above there, and I've got a light which kind of lights my room, keeps me lit in here, and I've got a bunch of packing blankets in places where I don't have other equipment. That's just to deaden it up just a little bit. There's my ARP 2600 and some more packing blankets, and then behind me is the just a green sheet as well from IKEA. That's something that I have a bigger professional green screen, but I don't use it all that much, in part because it doesn't fit in this room I'm in. But when I'm doing other bigger shoots with my bigger camera and things, I set that up out in the bigger space and do it out there. But this green screen, as you can see from me on the screen right now, is working pretty well. It's getting rid of all the background, and it seems to be doing okay. So down below then, I've got my SX240 from Kauai. This is one of my go-to subtractive synths. It has got great sounding DCOs, digital controlled oscillators, and memory recall and all kinds of fun stuff. It's a really great synth. And then my other main controller over here, which is the SL88 Studio. So this is the weighted keys and everything here. So I've got the 2 keyboards right in front of me. This one is my main one that I go to when I'm doing things, when I'm playing and composing and writing. And then I go to this one for more sound design and other interesting parts over there. And then down below is looking a lot different, although I still have a bunch of cables right now. These are all my like little mini synths that I need to plug in now that I just moved them around. So that'll all be more organized. There's a power over there, and I've got a wall plug there. And then my other computer, which I said I don't use all that much. This is a Windows machine. It's really powerful. I use this for my immersive 360 video and audio mixing and editing because Mac is horrible at doing things in 360. I have one of the Insta 360 Pro 2, which is like an 8K 3D 360 video and audio cameras, and the footage off of that, if I were to do like a a few minute clip, it would be like 40 or 50 gigs of video. And so I have to have a computer that can actually handle all that. So that's why I have a PC in the room. Even though I wish I could do it all on the Mac, but I can't. So the pegboard stuff, I had almost all of this stuff except for some of the synths in here, without the pegboard, and it was just a nightmare getting things in the right place. I had to pull the computers off the wall a little bit and put a shelf there, and now that I have the pegboard stuff, everything just has its own place, and it feels way more organized, even though there's still a little bit of room to go on it. Certainly there's a huge benefit to having things flat against the wall. So now my computer screens are flat against the wall. It makes it feel like this, which it's kind of like a closet space, but it makes it feel way more like a spaceship control room or something. And I think that that's a huge benefit. Anyway, the plan would be to figure out how everything should be and where it should be so that it doesn't have to move very often, which is one of the things that I'm going for right now. I will say these screens I have, these are Dell screens, and they're really nice computer monitors, but they do have, I can hook each one up to the Mac Mini, and they become essentially USB hubs. There's 4 additional USB ports on each of them. And so, they've been able to handle everything. So between the little USB hub I have, which handles hard drives, and then the 4 ports on each of the monitors, everything has been plugged in and working great without any power issues or anything else like that. Okay, if you have any questions about any of this, let me know. But I think that that's the main part I just wanted to demonstrate today, is a little bit about how that works. The IKEA stuff has a number of different components. So here's one that I've used. These are for the one I'm using for all of the synths. So they're really well locked in. This top part locks in first, and then that part holds it in place. So there's no give or take. I haven't noticed anything wanting to move or come off. I just got the shelf. So I'm going to be putting some stuff on here, but it has the little hooks on the back side. So it really quickly just locks right in place. I've got a couple of these ones, these loops. I had some ideas for what they could be used for, but I'm not sure yet. There's a few things. If you put 2 of them, you can create a little tunnel that things can go into. But those are some of the, you have to have some weight on those ones because they don't just, those ones don't stay in as nicely. Here's this one over here. You could put like a book on this if you wanted to keep a reference book handy. There's some great books by Focal Press and an author named Sam McGuire who you should check out at some point. Let me see if I can get that one back on. There we go. But that's the one that I have all my audio interfaces in, and the computer itself is sitting in that one. And that's the one that'll be for my laptop eventually. These ones right here attach with the lid. So the lid actually is what attaches to the wall, and then the bottom part just slides in, and you can pull that off and quickly pull, your little adapters or whatever else. You can pull those out really quickly. So you can put like all your Apple adapters in those. Didn't put that one up quite high enough, but we'll change it later. So it's just nice to be able to get all the stuff off the floor. One other thing I did on this other cork, or the pegboard behind the computer here, I have my actual camera attached to it that you're seeing me, and now I'm holding this other camera aimed at that camera. We're going to create a paradox here, right? But that one's actually attached to the pegboard, and that's what you're seeing me with, is that. So I can move it around. If I need it to be higher, I can just move it up a couple holes or to the right or left. That part is super easy to do. and you get a lot of flexibility. That's what I like about this, is that once you put these up, I can rearrange all of the gear pretty easily. It doesn't take long to move things around, and I'm going to leave it all kind of as it is for a little while, and then eventually I'll be like, you know what? I really wish that the one synthesizer was closer to me, and so I could move it and do that. But I think I have the synthesizers up here on the wall in a pretty good place where I can see all the parameters and make changes. The 2600 above I have to stand up for, but I use that one less than all of the rest just because, I mean, it's great, but it's old and has a little bit more noise, and so I just use it on special occasions, especially when I have the quieter stuff that essentially sounds or can accomplish the same things down below. And I have other instruments too that I'm not using in here. I think eventually I'd like to put some more of them in the room, but all of my acoustic instruments or accordion or, Chinese flutes and things like that, I'm not going to record them in here. And so I'm not going to necessarily store them in here. I'll bring out and record them in the bigger room next door if I want to record them. And so that becomes a whole different setup where I leave the computer and everything in here, and I walk out with just a cable running under the door and record everything using the iPad as the Logic controller, so I can actually push record and stop and rewind and all that stuff remotely, either with my phone or iPad, without having to be in the room. So you can actually do this whole setup with one person, which is really nice, instead of having to necessarily have two or more people to run a session. So that's definitely one of the benefits of Logic. Logic's really good at that. Okay, any thoughts or questions, let me know in the chat, because I am curious to see what you think about it. If this kind of thing is useful, exploring exactly what we have here. Obviously, this is just one mad scientist's idea. It's not complicated. It's actually not even that... I don't even think there's a lot of ingenuity here. But I do think that it's something we forget about. So I'll see if you have any questions or thoughts in the comments. But the last thing I'll say about the whole thing is that the only way this thing works is because a few years ago I ditched my monitors, the actual speakers. For a long time I was a user of the KRKs, the Rocket series. Yeah, I mean, those were great. They sounded good. They were fine. But I wanted to have a more portable footprint with everything. And so I switched when the NX series from Waves came out. I switched over to that. And what this does is it's the headphone tracker goes on top of my headphones. And then, let's see. We'll pull this up real quick so you can see it. The Waves, I've got all three of their things now. The Abbey Road Studio 3, I've got the NX basic one, and then Ocean Way Nashville that just got released recently. It's loading probably. Yeah, here we go. And so now with my headphones, I have access to these amazing studios. And so I don't have to necessarily mix at home on speakers, and I can just take any, like for instance, if I need something mastered and I need to be really sure that it's going to sound great, I'll take it to a place that has good mastering set up. Or if I need to do a final mix for somebody who's really picky and wants to be there, because this space I'm in right now is not a space where it would be great for someone else to be. And then I would probably actually go to a bigger room so that they could sit and watch it while we're mixing. Oh, so for the MIDI keyboards, this is a question that just came in. I actually didn't talk about how I mounted those. So let me show you underneath this one. See if I can get this shown right. I put like brackets on the wall. I just screwed them into the studs. So I used a stud finder to find out where the studs were and then put them right there. And then I have the same on this side as well. There's one there. You can see it in the background and one right there. All of those are just mounted into studs with these two long brackets that stick out, which means that they don't give a lot. They're really firm. And I measured the piano keyboard to be the exact same height as the keys on like a Steinway, compared to where my chair sits. And so it feels really comfortable. It's the right height to play. I don't have to mess with that very often. I put the synth just a little bit lower because I'm doing more in terms of reaching onto the synthesizer with all the buttons. But the SL88 Studio from Studio Logic, I'd mounted that I just measured. I looked online for the measurements of like a Steinway piano and just matched all the measurements for that. That way, I don't have anything coming up. There's no, like I have keyboard stands, but they're always like wider than that, and the door would open up and they would bump the feet of them, and I just got so tired of it. So I mounted this just so that when the door opens, it doesn't hit it at all, and so it really stays the big keyboard, the 88 key. It's out of the way just enough, but I can sit and play it for hours and have it at the right height. Hopefully that was what you were asking. Any other questions or things that you're curious about? Yep, so it's out of the way against the wall. It's just right off the wall. It's enough room to have the USB come off of the back of it. All the pedals and things have like the nice L ones. I need to get some L-shaped USB ones for this too, but I just haven't done it yet because then I could probably push it back another inch. But that's an inch I don't necessarily need right this moment. It's not in the way of anything. So I think it's important to design a space where you can come in and have access to everything without having to think about it or move things around. And that was my goal for this. It's just everything I want to use, I want to have right here, and have it out of the way. Yes, I definitely have some videos about Alchemy, and there's a few other YouTubers who have made some really great series about Alchemy. I've done on my channel more esoteric topics, meaning I don't start at the beginning and explain how to use the interface and things. My channel is definitely not like aimed at the brand new beginners of using Logic. I'm really so my whole channel, what I do is I use Logic all the time. Like I'm doing my own stuff. I teach at the university with it, so I'm using it for that. I do other people's projects in it. And every time I run up against something that I think is either interesting or something I didn't know and I learned it to be able to do something, those are the videos I tend to make, or the things that I run into. I go, man, I had no idea that it could do that. So that's what my channel is all about. There are a number of other people. Music Help Tech Guy did a bunch of videos back in the day that are like an introduction to Logic. There's a few others that have done Alchemy things. I do have Alchemy videos, but for the most part, it's like, again, the strange stuff. I'm going to do another one this week. A composer friend of mine was trying to do this thing where he had 4 or 5 different full music tracks that would change speeds at random time, not necessarily random, but at particular times. So he was saying like maybe one track was going 100% speed, like just normal speed. Another one was going 60% full speed. And then over 30 seconds, they would transition. So the one that was 60 would go up to 100, and the one that was 100 would go down to 60. And some of them would be going different speeds at various different times. In Logic or any DAW, that's not really something that DAWs are good at. Having a bunch of different tempos all happening simultaneously. But if you load each of the tracks into Alchemy, using the spectral analysis setting. There a little speed knob pops up, and you can actually have it play back at any speed and change the speed at any time using either LFO, envelope, or even automation. And so he could do exactly what he was asking. You could have all the different tracks going at different speeds, and then they could all meet in the middle. They could all just stay different. And that's the only way you could do that in Logic is this way, because Alchemy is going to load all the stuff into RAM or read it off the disk while it's doing this. But it's not locked into the tempo of Logic, which is there's only one tempo at one time. So I'm going to make a video about that, because it's like he asked how to do that, and I was like, maybe there's a way. And I went through and looked at all the options and found that was the best way to do it. And I was like, man, that's actually really cool how powerful Alchemy is and can do something so crazy. And now I'm going to make a video and share. Oh, so the green screen, someone asked about that, is a sheet right behind me. It's even a wrinkled sheet. I've never ironed it recently. And I have like a real green screen. It just doesn't fit in this room. But I'm using a program called OBS, which is free. You can get OBS. It has the ability to do a green screen removal. It's like the key for this. And so I use that to do the key removal in real time from my camera. I'm using, I don't remember the brand of this camera. This is the camera you're seeing my face on. I love this camera. It's just a little box that has USB. I mounted it onto like one of the Joby stands so I can move it around. But it's a 4K webcam, which I like having the higher quality, even though we don't stream in 4K. And OBS doesn't really handle 4K very well. Because it's a 4K camera, when I down res it, it still looks better. And so that's the camera feeding my face, and the green screen is behind it, and OBS removes the green screen. Hi, FredX 2021. But OBS is a really cool application. It's what allows me to be here. So for instance, on the stream, I can make myself bigger if I want to, and smaller, put me wherever I want. It handles all my audio routing. It lets me do the second web camera that's on the screen right there. And so I can get, the other angle. It's pretty cool. Works with Logic, but it has there's a lot of latency in this system, so I couldn't do, very easily, I couldn't do a live recording session over this format, but otherwise it would work. Sweet. I like being people's gurus, that's for sure. Yeah, I just do, as you were pointing out there, I do a lot of the more advanced stuff. It ends up being that way anyway. I teach beginners for my job. And so I don't find a lot of enjoyment in doing a lot of the beginning stuff on YouTube, because I'm already finding a lot of enjoyment doing that with students. And so they're like two different destinations for me. These audio interfaces I'm using right now are the Steinberg UR22 Mark II, and they're the exact same ones. So that way, if I'm doing something that's 4-channel, then at least I have a chance at having them sound similar. I do a lot with ambisonics and immersive audio, and so I'm always looking for, there's actually probably better situations than this, but I just haven't invested any more money into it right now. But at least with those two, I have the chance at having similar sounding inputs. And with Apple, you can aggregate both of those together into one new interface for Logic. I don't know how many of you have ever done that. It's really cool to be able to do aggregate things. So for instance, if you have an interface and you're thinking, you know what, I really wish I had more of an interface. Well, you could keep your current one and then come into your OS 10 audio MIDI setup, create a new aggregate device, and I can put all of my interfaces together. So I don't have the other Steinberg UR22 Mark II plugged in right now, but if I did, I could select them both, and then they would actually become, for Logic, a new interface that was actually just twice as many channels. It would look like one to Logic. It would work like one for Logic, except we'd have two of them out here. This is something that Windows users hate about Windows. It's really a pain in the butt to do something like that on Windows, and on Mac, it's like the easiest thing you've ever done. And it still remains fairly low latency with a good computer. If you have an older computer, that it might struggle some more, but it's a great way. So I'm going to be getting a new interface for doing Zoom meetings, a new like microphone, and I can just put that one directly in an aggregate device with my Steinbergs, and it would just be one bigger interface. It's kind of cool. Yeah, I've been interested in the SSL one. I've heard a lot of good things about it, but honestly, at some point I would love to just get like a smaller like actual mixer in here. Maybe put it where my Kawai SX240 is over here in front of me. Because then I could actually have some more outboard things. I've got a lot of analog instruments and things, and so it's great to go into the box and do all of that, but at the same time, I kind of like having that element. I learned outside the box. When I was a student, we were still doing analog and tape and all of that fun stuff, and I don't miss a lot of it because, man, that was a pain in the butt. However, I do think that every once in a while pulling up an analog mix and listening to it through an analog chain just sounded different, and I liked that sound. So every once in a while I miss that a little bit. Antelope Zen Go. I've seen that a little bit. I'm interested in that too. I don't know much about it yet, but I do think that there are some great options right now. And really, you just need to find something that works for you and does what you need it to do. I find when I was younger, as a student, I was always looking at the next thing and buying the next thing, and thinking, man, if I just had that, then that would be what it takes. And I've learned that now you just need to have something that's working, functional, and good. And then the rest of it actually comes from what you put into it, your ideas and the music and all of that. And so I'm a lot less interested most of the time in new things, like new interfaces, because I have ones that are working really well right now. The minute they stop working, I will invest in finding out some new things. But it's hard when you get to a certain point. I think a lot of my students are kind of in the same boat for different reasons, because financially, I think it's a hard time to go out and buy new things for a lot of people, and so that becomes an issue. However, there are a few things that I feel like really push the boundaries on that discussion. For me, I recently just joined up with Reason Plus, and that's the whole propeller head Reason Music Studio new subscription service, and I love that. I think it's a perfect marriage with Logic. I think it's really great for it. So things like that I feel like are worth some investiture in terms of spending a little bit of money, but cool. Yeah, things do fail. I'm not going to buy an Apogee interface for a long time. I've used those at different studios, and they're high quality. They really are. Like the components, like low noise mic pre, good quality builds of the actual interface for the most part. But their software sucks. I hate using Apogee Maestro. or whatever it's called. It's no fun, and they don't update it enough, and they've been doing a lot of that topic we've been talking about in the tech world a lot with planned obsolescence. Um, Focusrite has been doing that too recently. I used Focusrite for a long time, and I had an amazing interface. And they're like, "Well, we're going to release a bunch of new ones, and we're discontinuing all the old ones. Old ones that still worked perfectly fine and had good quality. They just didn't. I mean, they were like, we need more revenue, I guess. It's like we don't want to spend time developing software to work with the old ones. I mean, give me a break. These Steinberg ones don't require any actual drivers, and so they just work plug and play. And I think they're probably going to work for a long time because of that. So I'm happy with that. They preamps sound pretty good on them too. But I mean, don't give me that crap where you're like, man, we're gonna do a whole new line. We're gonna put it in a new box. It's gonna be the same preamps as before, maybe a little bit tweaked, but we're gonna have to do all new software. So nothing that you have of ours, like from a few years ago, is gonna work anymore. Okay, I see what you're all about. That being said, Focusrite, I mean, I do like their stuff. I have one of their interfaces around here someplace, but it's I don't like the companies that keep on upgrading to make you buy new things when the other thing could still work. Yeah, the audience. I haven't used the audience stuff. I have used one of their analog consoles, but I don't know about their interfaces. Some companies are just, I don't know if they're out of their league when they're designing these things, but some of them I feel like they just didn't really plan it out very well, or they're trying to take advantage of this whole wave of portable interfaces or something. I don't know. A lot of companies do things for different reasons, and it's hard to loop them all together, but it's certainly something to think about from our end where we are the consumers or the professionals using their gear. Um, at some point, we need to actually use the gear. I mean, if we're just doing it as a hobby, that's fine. But if you're making money from it, it's like you got to be able to actually make money from it before you have to buy a new one. And so the longer we can get out of our gear, the better, because it means that the money you earn can be used for other things instead of just buying new gear all the time. And so that becomes more important as you become a professional. If you want to run your own studio, you actually have to think about all the ways that you're going to get the job done. And buying new gear might seem like a really cool perk of the job, but if you're not making that much money from the whole venture, then I think that having reliable gear that can last a long time becomes a huge priority instead of just a luxury, if that makes sense. My name's Sam McGuire. Yeah, if anyone, that's not something that's a secret, but I teach. My name's Sam McGuire. I teach at the University of Colorado, Denver. And you can find my university email address on their website. So reach out to me through the University of Colorado Denver's website, and that's a great place to get a work email address from me. If any of you don't know much about that program, we have like, I don't know, I feel like our music industry program has about 500 students, and I think about 250 or so are studying music production. The other ones are studying music business or singer-songwriting. And it's a great program, and we have a lot of graduates out working in the business. My favorite thing I get to do there, except for this year, is the study abroad we do in the Czech Republic in Prague. I take around 10 students there in the summertime, and we do music production and recording studios and work with Czech musicians, jazz, pop, classical. For 2 weeks, we just get to go and work in studios and then see cool old cities and things. It's really fun. Okay. was supposed to be just kind of a short stream, and so I think we're going to end it here in a few seconds. Any last questions at all? Cool. Well, I'm going to be like I've been doing this week. We're doing more live streams and for the next couple of weeks because it's a little bit easier just to come in and do a live stream rather than make a separate video and edit it and do all of that. But we are going to still do those. It's just we're probably going to go to one a week for those type of videos at the most. So they can be a little bit higher quality, and these live streams will be more of a conversation. But thanks everybody for tuning in, and check back off and make sure you have that notifications on so you can see when we're doing live streams. Bye everybody.